Good morning, Year 4. It's Mrs. Martin here, ready to take you through our reading lesson today. We are going to be looking at some poems this week, and this poem is called Life Doesn't Frighten Me. If you haven't read it already, please pause the video here and have a read. You can find the poem on our class pages and then continue playing the video. Okay, hopefully you have read the poem. Let's have a look at some of that vocabulary that has come up in the poem. So it says the word counterpane. A counterpane is a bedspread, a bit like a duvet, so perhaps like you've got at home, quite an old-fashioned word, counterpane. A magic charm, hopefully you've all heard of one of those before, something that brings you good luck. So perhaps a clover or a horseshoe, or some people actually say a rabbit's foot. A panther is a large wild cat that is very dark black. A wild cat, a bit like a tiger or a lion or a jaguar, a different type of cat. Make them shoo means to make somebody go away. So if you were saying shoo, you might be waving at them, waving both your hands going shoo, shoo. You might have heard people do it to animals at points as well. Ooh. And the ocean floor, the bottom of the ocean. So we looked at that one when we did our story about the spies before half term. So when they're talking about the ocean floor, they mean the bottom of it. Where you're going to find that sand, maybe the coral, perhaps lots of seaweed, maybe some fish in amongst there as well. Okay, let's have a look at the poem together. Life doesn't frighten me. Shadows on the wall, noises down the hall. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Bad dogs barking loud, big ghosts in a cloud. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Mean old mother goose, lions on the loose. They don't frighten me at all. Dragons breathing flame on my counterpane. That doesn't frighten me at all. I go boo, make them shoo, I make fun, away they run. I won't cry, so they fly. I just smile, they go wild. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Tough guys fight all alone at night. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Panthers in the park, strangers in the dark. No life, no they don't frighten me at all. That new classroom where boys all pull my hair, kissy little girls with their hair in curls, they don't frighten me at all. Don't show me frogs and snakes and listen for my scream. If I'm afraid at all, it's only in my dreams. I've got a magic charm that I keep up my sleeve. I can walk the ocean floor and never have to breathe. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Not at all. Not at all. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Okay, what was the impression we got of that poem then? What was the message the reader was trying to give us? I think perhaps her message was about how brave she was and how in all of these situations she just thought about that magic charm and how she was going to be okay. She didn't need to be frightened. Right, time for our retrieval questions then. So remember, these are the ones where we skim and scan the text and we look for those key words. So when we think about what does the author refer to as down the hall, we're going to be thinking about that phrase, down the hall. What sound is referenced in the second stanza? Now the stanza is just like a verse in the poem. So you're looking at that second verse, almost a bit like a paragraph if you were to compare it to your normal writing. So have a go at those retrieval questions for me. Pause the video here and see if you can hunt down all of those answers in the text. Okay, let's have a think about those answers together then. So question 1, what does the author refer to as down the hall? So I'm going back to the poem and I'm searching for down the hall. Ah, here we go, down the hall. So the author is referring to the noises. Give yourself a tick if you had noises there. What sound is referenced in the second stanza? So this is our first stanza. This is our second stanza. We're looking for a sound in here. Ah, I think it's got to be the dogs barking, hasn't it? So give yourself a tick if you had the dogs barking. Question 3. Tell me the adjective used to describe the goose. So our key word here is going to be goose. So we're skimming and scanning it. We're looking for that word goose. Ah, mean old mother goose. So what adjective is used to describe the goose? I would agree if you had mean or if you had old. Both of those are describing her. Name 3 different animals mentioned in the poem. Let's have a skim and a scan and see which animals we can find. Well, we've got dogs, we've got the goose, we've got lions. I'd probably give you dragons as well. They're a mythical animal. I'll allow you to have dragons too. Let's just skim and scan and make sure there are no others that we've missed. Ah, of course, the panther in the park. Frogs, snakes. So if you had any of those, you need to have 3 of them, remember. You can have the mark. Number 5. Where is the poet's magic charm kept? So I'm skimming and scanning and I'm looking for, there, magic charm. Now I need to read around it and see where it is kept. I've got a magic charm that I keep up my sleeve. Ah, okay, so it's kept up their sleeve. And what is the poem about? Well, we briefly spoke about that earlier. So I think the poem is about how brave the poet is and how nothing scares her, because of course she has her magic charm. Now let's have a look at those questions that require a bit more thinking, and they require our inference skills, don't they? So this time the author doesn't tell us the answer, but we can work it out. Okay, look at stanza 1 and 2. So we're looking at the first 2 verses of our poem. Find and copy 2 phrases that show it may be dark. So we're looking for 2 phrases here that show it is dark. Pause the video and see if you can find those 2 phrases. Now, one of them I think is definitely a bit more obvious than the other. I would say shadows perhaps shows it's quite dark, doesn't it? Shadows gives us the impression of it being dark. The second one is a bit trickier, I think. We want 2 phrases that show it may be dark. I'm thinking about this phrase about ghosts, because if I think of a ghost, I think of them coming out when it's dark. I don't think about ghosts in the daytime. So they would be the 2 phrases that I would choose. And then our second part, what impression do you get of the setting? So where the poem is taking place. Pause here for me and see if you can think about what impression you get of the setting. Now I get the impression that it is very noisy in this setting and that it would scare most people. I know that our poet says it doesn't scare her, but with the shadows and the ghosts and the dogs barking, the impression I get is that it's dark, it's noisy, and it's quite a frightening place to be. Okay, look at stanza 5, so verse 5. Who is the poet talking about in this stanza? We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is our 5th stanza. And remember, we might need to read before it or after it to find our answer. Can you see if you can work out who the poet is talking about in this stanza? I think they are talking about those dragons, aren't they? Because they say that they fly, that they're not scared of them at all. So my answer would be the poet is talking about the dragons. Find 3 ways the poet sends them away. So we've got to have 3 different ways the poet sends them away. Pause the video here and see if you can write down those 3 different things that she does. Now there are 4 possible answers you could have had here. You could have had she goes boo, she makes fun, she doesn't cry, or you could have had that she just smiles as well. If you had 3 of those, you would definitely get the mark. Okay, look at the stanza beginning, that new classroom where. So we're skimming and scanning, we're looking for that new classroom where. Ah, here we go. So we're on to this stanza, that new classroom where. Why do you believe the poet used brackets for kissy little girls with their hair in curls? Why do you think they might have put brackets there? Pause the video for me and have a think. Okay, hopefully you've had a think about why they might have put brackets. Now there's a number of reasons we could have come up with. I think that I would write down the author has used brackets because for everything else, it's things that people might consider scary. Some people might be scared of panthers. Some people might be scared of the dark. But would it be usual for people to be scared of little girls who had curly hair? Not really. So I assume they probably put this in brackets to show that actually they're not talking about people normally being scared of little girls with curls in their hair. I've got a magic charm that I keep up my sleeve. I can walk the ocean floor and never have to breathe. Have a think about how this stanza is different from the stanzas that came before it. What is the meaning of this stanza? Okay, you've had a go at writing your own answer down. Now, if I was to think about this stanza, I'm thinking that this stanza is the first stanza that doesn't talk about all of the things they are scared of. So all of the previous stanzas listed the things that the poet was not scared of. Whereas this stanza tells us why they're not scared, what special charm they have that keeps them from being scared. And it also mentions this kind of magical ness, I guess, at the end. I can walk the ocean floor and never have to breathe. Does that seem realistic? Is that something that could really happen? Do you think perhaps she might be dreaming at this point? Maybe actually her whole poem is about all of the things that she dreams, that maybe her magic charm stops her from having these nightmares, and she instead has these wonderful dreams about being able to walk on the ocean floor. And let's have a look at our last questions. So the poem provides a positive message to the reader. Do you agree? Now, when you're answering this question for me today, I'd like you to have a real think about why you agree. So you wouldn't get the mark if you just put, yes, I agree. You wouldn't get the mark if you put, no, I disagree. You've got to back it up with why from the text. So I agree because, I disagree because. And then use those quotes from the text to explain to me why you agree or disagree. pause the video here and see if you can write for me a full answer about why you agree or disagree. Okay, again for this one, there's lots of positive possible answers that you could have had. My personal answer would have been that yes, I do agree there's a positive message, because although the poet lists all of the things that they could be scared of, they explain that they don't let them frighten them. They're brave and they try to scare them away. They mention as well their magic charm and how they, by believing in things, they make the positive things come true. Okay, please send your answers in to your teacher so that we can have a look at your fantastic work.